I've been building businesses online longer than most influencers have been alive. And I'm gonna share with you in today's video the number one thing that's kept me in business for this long and the most important currency in an overly skeptical business landscape. Hey guys, what's going on? Goodwill King here, CEO and founder of Healthpreneur. We help amazing health practitioners grow scalable coaching businesses without the grind. And today I'm gonna share with you why attention is not the most important currency in today's day and age. It's actually something else. And when I say this to you, you're gonna know exactly what I'm talking about. It's a 5-letter word called trust. I think we both know that if you gather all sorts of attention, well, you have to fulfill on that. And if you don't, it's called bait and switch. And at the end of the day, if you want to actually build a business based on people giving you money in exchange for some type of value, then the bridge between attention and the ultimate conversion is trust. If you do not build trust in your marketplace, you will have a very hard time building your brand, building your business, because now statistically more than ever before, on the trust index, we're at the lowest point we've been at in 40 years. Think about this for yourself. Since COVID, I've noticed that there's more skepticism, people don't trust each other, and especially in the online space, people are more mistrusting of businesses. And that's probably as a result of seeing posts, every third or fourth post being a sponsored post or an ad for another business service, another marketing service, and people have tried stuff and they maybe haven't had the best results. And therefore they get jaded and there's more skepticism. And all of this creates longer sales cycles because now people don't feel comfortable making decisions because they don't want to make the wrong one. And therefore they deliberate over and over and over again forever in some cases. And as a result, the sales cycle is so much longer. So what that means is it takes someone so much longer to actually make a decision to work with you than 5 or 6 or even 10 years ago. So here in this video, I'm going to walk you through what I call the trust factor. And it's essentially a formula for building trust. When I look back over my 20 plus years in business, I ask myself, okay, what has allowed me to stay in business this long? And why do I have little to no negative reviews online? I'm not perfect, right? But there's no nonsense. There's no scams out there. I'm not part of any of that shit. I'm going to share with you when I kind of unpack all this for myself. I looked at, okay, well, what are the factors that have allowed me to build trust for 20 plus years, that have allowed me to build an impeccable reputation, and as a result of that, help millions of people to better health and obviously practitioners to better businesses. So I'm going to unpack this with you. If you've got a pen and paper, you're going to want to take some notes here because I promise you this lens, this formula that I'm going to show you, you can use this as a rubric, a lens through which you can look at everything in your business. And as I'm going through this, I also want you to think of how this applies to other aspects of your life. So before I dive into the formula, let me ask you this. Who is someone in your life that you trust implicitly? I want you to write that person down. Could be their name, could be whatever, mom, spouse, dad, whatever. One person, okay? Got that? Second is, what is one brand or a company that you also trust more than any other brand or company? And I want you to write that down, okay? So you've got someone in your life and a brand, a company that you trust to a very, very high level. Got those? Perfect. Now, I want you to keep those top of mind as we unpack this formula. So let's rock and roll. So in order to create trust, there are a few things we need to do. Number one is we need to build goodwill. So goodwill, think of this as reciprocity and positive expectancy. So what I mean by this, there's 2 aspects of goodwill. One is integrity. Integrity means doing what you say you're going to do. And that can be a public statement or it can simply be a commitment to how you show up in business. So I'll give you examples of both. So integrity of saying, doing what you say you're going to do could look like posting every single day. You've not made a public declaration anywhere, but you've just committed to the act of posting every day. Now, if you do that and then you take 3 months off, well, now, although people don't really care about what you're doing, there's a sense of what happened to so-and-so? They were consistent. I used to see them all the time, and now they just kind of disappeared. How many of those people have you seen over time, right? I know that a lot of the quote-unquote internet marketers from back in the day when I was starting in 2005, I'm like, what happened to so-and-so? Oh yeah, they disappeared for like 4 years and then they come back online when they have the new product to launch. You've seen those people, right? It's a little bit fishy. The ability to show up consistently for people is very, very important because the human brain loves certainty. Certainty is one of the most important things to help people feel safe. And if you don't show up consistently, that's going to be a big kind of X against you. So when I say integrity in terms of doing what you say you're going to do, from a business perspective, it's simply being consistent in how you show up and add value to the marketplace. In addition to that, if you say you're going to have lunch with a friend, maybe you should just follow up and actually do that. Or if you say, hey, I'll call you tomorrow, maybe you should actually do that, right? So simple little things like keeping your word, whether it's a verbal thing like that, or actually just showing up consistently in how you add value to the world is part of the Goodwill piece. That's the integrity component. The second component is being helpful. There's two ways of looking at content. Like you have content that's entertaining, that's complete escapism. So think of a lot of the stuff that Mr. Beast does. There's zero educational value there. It's not helpful in the slightest. It is entertaining and it gives people a sense of escape, right? They can escape from their miserable lives and they get entertained for 20 minutes and then they're like, cool. I'm not talking about that here. Now there's obviously, I'm sure there's some inherent value there. That's fine. But what I'm talking about is actually being helpful. So when you create content, and it could be anything, email, social post, just in terms of even a conversation with someone, think about how can I make this person's life better? How can I create something that is less about a flex and more about how this is going to help this person's situation? It's a very simple lens through which you can look at content. A lot of social content is mostly flex. It's status increasing. So I'll give you an example. If I post a picture with me and my McLaren, there is no value in that for you. That is a 100% flex of like, look at how cool I am. And essentially what I'm doing is I'm using the car to position my status in the marketplace. So the idea there is that you would see that and associate, oh, Yuri has a McLaren. I actually have two. I didn't rent them. Don't worry, like I own them. But nonetheless, you've made that association like, oh, wow, like this person must be successful. It's the same reason that people take pictures with their private jets. There's zero value in that for you, but it's all about a flex for them. And that association to their increased status positions you as a credible expert. Now, there's a time and place for that, right? Like, yeah, you can sprinkle that in. But if all of your content is like that, or all of your content is like a selfie of your ass, hope you have an amazing Monday. Like, come on, like it's ridiculous. So I think in a world of ridiculous nonsense and influencers have no clue what they're doing, now not all of them, but some of them, I think more than ever before, you can really stand out by just being useful and helpful to other people. And the more you do that, the more you build goodwill. Okay, now this doesn't happen overnight. This takes time. There's a reason that I've been doing this for so long and why I have such a good reputation. I've been adding goodwill to the market, to the world for 20 plus years. It's not an overnight thing. This takes time, okay? But that's the first piece. The next piece is time. So with respect to time, there are two components, frequency and duration. If I post once a week, if I send an email once a week, that's frequency. But the key here is being top of mind in front of people all the time, frequently, nonstop, over and over again. And whether that's a manual process, i.e. you posting on social media or sending out emails, or you have ads running on your behalf 24/7, it doesn't really matter. The key here is the frequency of touch points with your audience. So one of the most common things that we see coming into our world is when people book a call to speak with us, they're like, yeah, man, I've just been seeing your ads for 2 years. That's it. That's the purpose of running ads. I want your eyeballs on my ads all the time. And that's a frequency thing, right? You wake up in the morning, you go through social, you're like, there's this bald guy again. Okay, whatever. You get on with your day, you're checking in later on while you're sitting on the toilet. Oh my God, there's Yuri again. Like it's these touch points over and over and over again. And when you do this for years, nonstop, that's frequency. Remember, frequency leads to certainty. Because remember, frequency means this person has been around. They're going to continue to be around. Just like the sun is rising and setting every single day. There's a certain rhythm of certainty to that, as opposed to seeing an ad and then never seeing the person again. right? The value of frequency is just this increased visibility over time. And so that's why I love running ads, because I don't have to manually post everything. I can just allow the automation and use that leverage for my message to get in front of the right people consistently over time. So frequency is massive because it's those frequent touch points. The second thing is duration. So think of these videos, like this video, I don't know, it's gonna be 30 minutes maybe. This video is going to build way more duration in terms of our interaction than if you just watched a 30-second reel. And you ask anybody who has a YouTube channel where their best clients come from. YouTube and podcast, if they have either one of those. Why? Time on brand. If you consume tens of hours of my content, that is a very different experience for you and possibly coming in to work with us compared to someone who just saw an ad or just saw a 30-second reel. Even if you just saw 30-second reels of mine frequently, right? It would be less valuable than if you saw these longer form videos consistently. There's a reason I do these videos. I love doing them, but also I understand there's a very powerful branding effect here of I want to literally indoctrinate you and I want you to drink the Kool-Aid. Because I know the more Kool-Aid you drink, the more of my Kool-Aid you're going to want to drink. And that's just being very honest with you, okay? So when you look at time, it's how frequently can we get in front of your ideal prospects and how duration-wise, like how long, how much more time can we spend in front of them? That's why webinars are so effective. 45 minutes of someone's attention versus a quick one-page PDF download, very different in terms of their commitment. If someone doesn't want to watch this full video, that's okay. That's fine. But that's why I create longer form content. All of our marketing should be seen as a filter. We're not trying to appeal to everyone. We're actually trying to exclude and repel people who are not committed to even paying attention. But the people who do, those are the people that will work with you eventually. So time is really important. Now, also, if you look at the time from a longevity perspective, when I look at Healthpreneur as a brand or myself, the one most significant differentiator that we have in our marketplace that no one can even touch is experience. Because no one in our space has been online doing what I do since 2005. And if you know them, please let me know in the comments because they don't exist. I've been at this for a long time. I have some friends in this space. They've been around roughly, around the same time, but very, very, very few people have been in this space building businesses and helping health professionals build their businesses for 20 years. That is the single biggest differentiator that we have in the marketplace. So when experience matters, health professionals come to us. Now, if you wanted to go on an airplane, would you fly with a rookie pilot or a captain who's had 20,000 plus hours of experience in flying? Yeah, it's kind of like this. So that's the power of time. Time, whether it's frequency and duration combined or longevity of time, builds confidence because if you've been around for 20 years, it implies you must be good at what you do. And that, again, reinforces certainty. Think of trust as certainty, trust as safety. And all of these components build safety and certainty, which mean more trust. And the more people trust you, the more likely they are to choose you. The third piece, so we've got Goodwill, we've got time, and the last one here on the top of the equation is proximity. So think about a brick and mortar, whether it's a gym or a clinic. You walk through the door and the person's 80% sold. Like the physical proximity, there's two components to proximity, emotional and physical. I'm going to talk about the physical first. Physical proximity is person is like literally a foot away from you. And why that's important is because physical proximity allows our BS radar to pick up on nonverbal cues that tell our brain whether this person's full of shit or if they're like a real legit person. So when you are face to face with someone, the reason trust is built so much faster and why it's so much easier to sell in person is because the brain, that BS radar of looking for all the nonverbal cues, like is this person real? Like where are their eyes looking? Like let me get a sense of their body language. All of that is addressed immediately. And it, again, reassures us that this person in front of us is real. Like they're not a clone, they're not a fake, whatever. This is a real person. And at the same time, if you are having a one-on-one in vivo type of experience, You'll also know whether this person's full of shit. So I'll give you an example. So 2 examples. One, I was at an event many, many years ago with one of the biggest people in our space. I'm not going to mention his name just to not like throw people under the bus. And I remember having a one-on-one conversation with him. And the whole time we were talking, and that was maybe about 2-3 minutes, he was looking behind me, right? Think you've ever had that conversation with a person who's kind of just looking behind you? Like there's a conversation that's more important somewhere else. That was that conversation. And when that happens, he immediately broke trust. And I'm like, this person, like, why would I ever want anything to do with this person? Who cares how many followers and how big their business is? Like you can tell so much from someone when you meet them in person. And I was so disappointed by that experience that instantaneously we're done. That's the power of proximity, okay? Another example, I was at another event separately from this, and my wife was with me. And we're kind of talking to the person who was putting on the events, who was a pretty big person in the space. And we were close at the time. And my wife was like, there's something about this person that's a little bit off. Energetically, there's like, I get a weird vibe. And I'm like, no, like this, they're great. They're awesome. Anyways, 5 years later, truth comes to surface and this person's like shady as fuck. So my wife had picked up on the fact that energetically something was off here. And for whatever reason, my desire to not want to see that maybe kind of like, put blinders over that. But here's the power of proximity in person is if you really, really tap into your intuitive guide, which is your ultimate coach, you'll know instantaneously if this is someone you can trust or not. And that's why building a business virtually is infinitely harder because we don't get that same physical proximity. So how do we do that? How do we do that online? How do we build physical proximity when it's virtual? Well, it's really simple. Well, theoretically, if we can't be in person with someone, the next best thing is a Zoom video call. So you're on a live call on Zoom with someone. Like you can see them, they can see you. That's number one. From there, we go down one step to a video like this. A video, again, this is me one-to-many. We're not interacting here, but you can see me. You can see my physical mannerisms. You can get a sense of if I'm full of shit or if I'm being honest and truthful. That's very, very important. One step from there, we have audio. So listen to a podcast where you can still hear tonality and nonverbal communication through inflection and so forth. Very important. And then one step removed from that is we have the written word. The written word online is very powerful, but at the same time, it's also the one thing that you probably are not going to build the most trust with because we don't even know what the person looks like, right? Potentially. It's very hard to pick up on these verbal or nonverbal cues from someone's writing. So that's kind of the flow of building physical proximity in a virtual space is Zoom video where you have a live interaction. Video like this is next, audio after that, and then written word. So what can we learn from that? Anything you can do to spend more time physically proximal with your prospects or clients is going to be good. That's why if you have a sales call, it's probably better to do it on video Zoom. You can see them, they can see you. That's why you'll generally get better conversions unless you're terrible and you're reading a script across the screen, which you don't want to do. Okay? So that's the physical proximity side of proximity. The second component of proximity is the emotional proximity. And there are 3 components here. We have vulnerability, authenticity, and transparency. They sound the same, but they're not quite. So transparency is just being like, here's what's going on, okay? Just being honest about a situation. Vulnerable is actually emoting. Like, it's like, here's what I'm feeling, and this is uncomfortable for me, but I want to share this. And authentic is just being yourself. And if you do these 3 things, you will build emotional proximity with people because they will start to resonate with you. So recently we put our dog down. She was almost 16 years old, and I shared, just a little bit of a thought on Instagram. Now, for context, my content on Instagram gets little to no engagements, very few comments, and that's fine because I understand that people might just be consuming it and not leaving anything on it. I don't give a shit. But this one post had 160 comments in like literally 2 hours. And the reason for that is because, it wasn't because I wrote this beautiful, like vulnerable, I'm bawling my eyes out type of post. Yes, there was more vulnerability there. There was more emotion involved there. But from the process, like from the follower perspective, it was something that they could connect with, right? And I just, it wasn't like I was manipulating anything. I was just being honest. I was being truthful. I was being myself, and I was being more vulnerable, at least emotionally, than maybe some of my other stuff. And so when you do that, I'm not saying everything you post should have that, because then it's like, dude, like you're a train wreck, like chill. Let me ask you this. What makes a superhero so interesting? Every superhero has a superpower, but what's on the other side of that? They're kryptonite, right? So Superman can fly and bend steel and all this cool stuff, but he's literally rendered useless by kryptonite. And every single superpower pretty much has a complete opposite of their power, as do we. So if you only highlight your superpowers and you're like too cool for school all the time, people are not going to connect with you because they can't connect with everything's perfect all the time. They want to know who you are, what you are going through. And it's really powerful, especially in a day and age where people, like, they're looking for reasons to not trust you. Give them a reason to trust you. So that emotional proximity is really important, and especially for health practitioners who are too smart for their own good, to be honest. Like, I'm Harvard educated and I have all these fancy letters behind my name. No one gives a shit, okay? Speak like a human, be real, dumb it down, connect with people at a more human level, if you will, okay? It's really, really powerful. It's the same thing with these videos. So these videos that I published once a week, they're more tactical. The hashtag winning videos that we publish on the channel, we polled our community here, and 65% of you guys prefer those videos. Why? Because they're unscripted, they're not edited, they're raw. That's it. It's just me ranting and being raw. It's being emotionally proximal. These videos, I think they're useful as well, but they're more tactical, they're more cerebral. And there's nothing wrong with that. This is more of kind of like the Goodwill of being useful type of thing. But if all you did is Goodwill, then you're going to have parts of the trust factor, but not all of them. And the goal here is that we want all of these to increase. So the more goodwill you create in the marketplace, the longer you are around, the more frequently you get in front of your audience, and the more you connect with people on Zoom, for instance, like that's why we have like 40 coaching calls a week. It connects our community of clients to a level that is just unparalleled. You know, the ability to show up vulnerably, emotionally, not every single day, but just allowing people into your world, all of this is going to help build trust. Cool? Now, there's one important thing underneath the equation here. And this is uncertainty. And we want to decrease uncertainty. The more we decrease uncertainty, the more we increase trust. So how do we decrease uncertainty? Well, there's 3 components here. So number 1 is you want to use, and I'll just map these out. You want to use proof, social proof, testimonial, case studies, show people you actually know what you're doing. It's unbelievable how much people do not trust you, and they will trust other people's words of you more than what you say of yourself. So one of the more common things you might hear in a sales call is, well, I'd love to talk with one of your clients or a couple of your clients. Hey, happy to do so, just so I know what specifically would that do for you, right? Ask the question to get underneath the real question. It's like, well, I just want to make sure, like, cool, can I tell you what they're going to tell you? It's hard. It's going to be tough. You're going to have moments of doubt and moments where things don't work out. Just be honest with people, right? But nonetheless, people want to see proof. People want to see other people like themselves who've had success, or they just want the real truth. Like, was it as easy as you thought? You know, was it hard? What didn't you like? Was like, whatever. The more proof you have, and this also goes into time, the longer you're in business, the more proof you'll have, which reduces uncertainty. The second component is to consider giving people a test drive. So I'm not saying you should give people a free trial into your coaching. I think that's going to attract horrible quality clients. What you could consider, though, is stuff like this, right? I share some of my best content on YouTube for free. It's your way of test driving what this is all about, because people are going to do business with you based on what they've already experienced as opposed to what they're expecting. So if you go through all my videos on YouTube, I have a pretty good sense, if you enjoy it, that this quote unquote test drive will give you confidence to have a better sense of what it might be like to work with me, right? I had a person chat with me on DM a little while ago, and she's like, I'd like to try you out for a month. I'm like, sorry, I don't do that. And I'm like, well, why would you want to just go for a month? She's like, I just want to test drive and see if your style of coaching resonates with me. I'm like, go fucking watch my YouTube videos. I didn't say fucking, but like, have you watched my YouTube videos? She's like, yes. I'm like, great. Then you know my style of coaching. So we either do this on my terms or you continue to suffer on your own. I don't bend for anyone. Call that ego, whatever. But anyways, consider a test drive. Another way you can look at this is if you have an email list, you can consider more of a nurture type of opportunity. So maybe you do a 5-day workshop or a 5-day challenge or a 2-hour live workshop on Zoom. It can be free or it can be paid. All of these little, opportunities to give people a sense of like what it might be like to work with you on the inside, right? Open up the kimono, like show like here, we're going to do this whole thing on this thing. Just want to give you a sense of what it might be to look like on the back ends, whatever. It gives them a sense not only of proximity to you, but of like what it would look like to potentially work with you. Again, I'm not personally a huge fan of free trials, like test drives on the front end, because what you'll find is a lot of people come in and then they leave. I'm like, no. Like, here's how this works. And you guys have seen my videos about this shit. I cannot, offering guarantees on coaching, I don't think is a very good idea. Now, in full transparency, again, coming back to emotional proximity and being truthful, we have a guarantee in our business, okay? So if you work with us in HBA, we will build out your perfect client pipeline and your high converting offer for you, 100% done for you in under a couple weeks, or you don't pay anything. That's a guarantee because we control that. Like we have 100% control over those assets and we give them back to you and then we coach you for a whole year to help you crush it. However, I cannot guarantee your results because how you show up or if you suck on the phone and you can't close people, that's on you, but we're going to skill you up so you get better at that. So in our case, I can guarantee a certain aspect of our process, but I can't guarantee the results. Number one, it would be against the FTC, like I didn't show it to the FTC. Number two, it's not even truthful, right? Because I'm like, I can't think for you. I can't get in your head. I can't do the work for you. And it's 100% out of integrity. So I'm just being very honest with people like, hey, we can guarantee this, but your results, you got to take ownership of that. Cool? So just in case you're wondering. So that's kind of on the test drive side of things. The third is sneak peek. I don't know if you've ever been to a restaurant with open kitchen, like an open kitchen. I don't know why they do it specifically, but my suspicion is that, at least from my mom's point of view, is that she feels more comfortable going to a restaurant that has an open kitchen because she feels more comfortable that the chef isn't spitting in the food because she can apparently see it. So that's a great example of if you can show people your process, that is going to inherently give them a little bit more trust about what it is you're up to. Another example of this is Expedia. So if you've ever booked a flight on Expedia, you'll notice when you choose the seat, it does this spinning wheel, finding your flights. Did you know they've already found your flights? And they use that time delay because the process or the perceived time delay, at least from our perspective, means that the search engine is doing its work really hard to go find our flights. And that increases the perceived value of that. It would be a little bit weird if you hit select seats and boom, right away it was there. It's actually been shown in a lot of different studies to make it almost perceive like something is oddly too fast. So by actually showing the process, in this case with Expedia, of a 5 or 10 second delay, it increases trust because we believe that it's going through this really laborious behind the scenes process to find our perfect flight. In reality, it's literally just a piece of code that says, do spinning wheel of death for 5 seconds, just so the prospect feels that we're actually doing a bunch of shit at the back end. But the reality is we already know the seat. And it's crazy. It's so interesting. So a little bit disconnected from the sneak peek, but nonetheless, it gives a perceived sense of okay, they're doing some really hard work on my behalf behind the scenes to find the right seat for me, okay? Another way of doing this and this is actually something we have a video where I walk through what HBA looks like. It's about a 25-minute video. I call it Inside HBA. And I literally show someone, you may have seen this, I don't know. I walk through, like, here's what the step-by-step launch checklist looks like. Here's what our school community looks like. Here's what our call calendar looks like. Here's the process of exactly how we build out your perfect client pipeline. You're going to schedule in your call here. We're going to do this for you here. Boom, I map out the whole thing. And what that does, hopefully, is it alleviates any kind of uncertainty. I've talked about this before, but I'll remind you again. If I had a black box and I asked you to put your hand in the black box, would you? Some of you might say no. And why you might say no is because you don't know what's in the black box. It could be $1 million. It could also be scorpions, right? So unless you trust me, you're not going to put your hand in the black box. Conversely, if you have a fishbowl and it has some water in it, and I ask you to put your hand in the fishbowl, would you put your hand in the fishbowl? Probably. Why? Because you can see what's inside. You're like, oh, cool, it's just water. I'm like, no big deal. So when you give people a sneak peek of what's inside, you're moving more towards the fishbowl, and it gives them more certainty that, like, this isn't going to be some kind of scam. Like, it's actually legit. This is what it's going to look like on the other side of the wall. All of this is increasing certainty. It's increasing buyer safety. The more you do that, the more trust you build. The more trust you build, the easier it is for someone to say yes to working with you. So sneak peek, test drive, and proof. These are the three big ways to reduce uncertainty. When you reduce uncertainty and you increase goodwill, time, and proximity, you start to build a brand, whether that's your business brand or your personal brand, that has a degree of trust that is unparalleled. And just a reminder, you want all four of these in play. If you only have goodwill and proximity and uncertainty, well, you might just be a fly-by-night type of person. But the more you do that over time, the more trust you'll have. If you've been around for a long time, but you haven't been adding any goodwill, then no one's going to know who you are. If you've been around adding goodwill and you've been around for a long time, you do all this kind of proximity stuff, but you do nothing to decrease people's uncertainty, like there's no social proof, there's no kind of behind-the-scenes stuff, people don't have any idea what you do, they're not going to feel super safe in potentially working with you. So all of these factors have to be in place for you to build more trust within your marketplace. Now, I want to go back to how I started this video, and I asked you, who is someone in your life that you trust? And who is a brand, or what is a brand that you trust? So let's look at two good examples. Let's look at mom, and let's look at Amazon. So if we look at mom, has mom kept her word? Probably. Now, here's something interesting. If you have a completely disconnected relationship from your mom or dad, for instance, I know some people do, this actually can reveal some interesting stuff. So if I know some people who are completely they're totally disconnected from their mom or dad. If we look at integrity, keeping your word, doing what you said you're going to do, well, could you rely on mom or dad? Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe they didn't do things consistently that made your life a little bit better. And perhaps they were an alcoholic, they were abusive. That's the opposite of goodwill, and they're out, right? So if you think of your mom or dad, someone you really trust, they're typically someone who keeps their word. They're typically someone who adds value in some way, shape, or form to your life to improve your situation, right? Whether that's supporting you financially or giving you love or whatever it is. Time, well, they've been there since day one. Proximity, sure, you're physically proximal with your mom or dad for at least 18 years. Okay? Uncertainty, proof, test drive, sneak peek. Well, the proof is kind of you're the proof. The test drive is you've been living with them however long. Sneak peek is you're just with them, right? So there's nothing really to sneak peek. Proximity emotionally, again, depends. How vulnerable was your mom with you? How emotionally available? How open were they? So there's different facets here, right? But that's one way you could look at this from that perspective. If you look at Amazon as an example, Amazon, goodwill, yeah, okay, totally. I'm going to order this. It's going to come tomorrow. Cool, it shows up tomorrow. It's not like you choose Amazon Prime, next day delivery, and it shows up a week later. No. They fulfill on their promise. 2 is, do they improve your life, improve your situation? 100%. Yeah, so goodwill is through the roof. Time, they've been around since the 90s? Yeah. Frequently, duration, we got it. Proximity, physical, kind of, right? It's either it's on our phone. We have people dropping stuff off at the door. Obviously, it's We see it all the time. Emotional, probably a lot less. Again, because of the nature of the business, it's more transactional, right? There's not as much transparency and vulnerability and authenticity with Amazon, at least not that most people would understand. Like if you dove into the culture of Amazon and you wanted to understand their ethos and core values, you might get more of that. But for most people, I don't even think they care. They know that they've been around forever. They can trust them because of the goodwill. And the uncertainty is like proof, 100%. Every single time you order, boom, there it is. Social proof on the actual sites for every single product. Test drive, a lot of times you can use Prime, you can try things out, whatever, sneak peek. Well, they give you previews of the products, videos on the product pages, all sorts of stuff. And all of this reduces uncertainty. In fact, when you look at a lot of products that have a Shopify store and are placed on Amazon, the conversion rate on Amazon is about 10 to 15 times higher than it would be on a Shopify store that's branded under that company. And the reason is because of trust. You're borrowing Amazon's trust. If you're selling a product, it makes a lot of sense to be on a platform that it trusts big time. I was talking with a client yesterday, and she was uploading a bunch of testimonials to her website. And I asked her, I'm like, do you have those on YouTube? And she's like, we're actually just uploading them to YouTube. I'm like, good. Because what's going to happen is if you title those videos appropriately, like your name reviews, because that's what people will be typing into Google when they search you up, you are borrowing YouTube's massive credibility and their search engine power. So instead of you trying to get ranked for your own website with those videos will get shown on the first page of Google because they're on YouTube. If you type in healthpreneur reviews on Google, do that now. You'll see what happens. There's at least 5, 6 of our videos, and then you can go down the whole playlist of I think we've got 90 video testimonials on YouTube. All of them will show up on the first page of Google not because I have a highly ranked website, it's because I'm leveraging YouTube. And because they're on YouTube, there's a higher level of trust because YouTube is YouTube. So anytime you can kind of leverage these bigger brands, that's always a good thing in the eye of the beholder. That same testimonial on your website might have less clout than if it were on YouTube, just because it's on YouTube. So this is the trust factor. And this is the new currency for winning in business in an increasingly untrusting world. I promise you, if you commit this to memory, if you write this down, if you put this on a sticky note and you look at everything you do in your business through this lens, you will win. You will win because the most important thing is trust. I've shared this before and I'll say this again. The biggest reason someone is not going to work with you, like let's say you have a sales call with them, they get to the end, I want to think about it, it's a little bit expensive. All of that is bullshit, okay? The number one reason people are not going to work with you is because they do not believe you are going to help them. They don't trust you. They don't trust your process. That is the single biggest reason why, aside from the possibility that they don't actually want what they say they want. So you must be able to deal with uncertainty, and you must be able to increase certainty as much as humanly possible before people speak with you, so that when they do, it's simply here's my credit card. And that's what happens when you build trust. But it doesn't happen overnight. But it is the most important thing in order for your business to grow over time and last over time. And that's why the goal of business is to stay in business. And it's this interesting kind of thing, because the longer you're in business, that means the better your business is doing. And the longer you're in business, the more trust you build in the marketplace because you've been around for longer. So naturally, when you're just starting out, no one knows you, no one trusts you. But you last a long time, everyone starts to trust you, and therefore it's a lot easier to stay in business. That's why bigger begets bigger. If you stay in business, it's a lot easier to stay in business. It's you have to get past this hump, and then it just becomes this, rocket ship around, planet Earth. It takes a lot of energy to leave the atmosphere. But once you're out there, you could literally pull a rocket ship with a string based on the momentum it's built around the Earth's atmosphere. And it's the same here. It takes a lot of effort to build your brand, to build the trust. But once you have it, everything starts to become a lot easier. However, it takes a long time to build trust, and it can take a split second to kill it. So always remember that if you are doing the best you can and you go to bed at the end of every day and you look in the mirror and you know you're doing the good work, that's the most important thing. You will get people that'll shit talk you. You'll get people who say or whatever. They don't know you. They don't understand. Okay. They don't again, if it's your close clients, your family, that's different. But for most of you guys, people leaving negativity on your stuff. Who gives a fuck? Who cares? Okay. You're doing good work. You go to bed at the end of the day. You know you haven't done anything shady. If you have, that's a different story. But I'm assuming you're a good person. You've got integrity. You've got a good heart. You want to serve other people. And if you keep doing that with that intention, you will win. Over the past 20 years in business online, I've built thousands of landing pages for my own business as well as that of our clients. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through 12 quick ways to improve the conversion rate and performance of your landing page so you can get more leads, enroll more clients, and grow your business.